The ballroom glittered with chandeliers, and expensive perfume laughter spilled across marble floors as cameras flashed and champagne flowed. It was the charity gala of the year, and everyone who mattered was there, including Nathan Cole, the ruthless. Billionaire CEO known for building empires and breaking rivals by his side stood Bianca, his girlfriend, a woman who loved attention almost as much as she loved the wealth that came with it. At the edge of the room stood a young woman in a simple, black dress holding a tray of glasses. Her name was Emma, her eyes kind, her smile small. She'd been working double shifts to pay for her father's surgery. She moved quietly through the crowd, unnoticed by most, but not by Nathan for a brief second. Their eyes met across the room. Something flickered there. Familiarity. Maybe recognition, but before either could react, Bianca's shrill laugh cut through the air. Emma passed by. Bianca turned sharply, her heel, catching Emma's dress, the tray. Slipped and glasses crashed onto the floor. Bianca gasped dramatically. "Oh my God, watch where you're going, you clumsy girl." Emma bent down quickly. "I'm so sorry, ma'am. It was an accident." Bianca sneered. "Accidents don't happen when people know. Their place." She looked at the torn edge of Emma's dress, then grabbed the fabric and ripped it further in front of everyone. "Maybe now you'll remember who you're serving." The crowd gasped. Silence spread like fire. Emma froze, her face pale, the sting of humiliation sharper than the tear in her dress. But before she could speak, a deep voice broke through the noise. "That's enough." Nathan had stepped forward. His jaw clenched, his eyes cold. Bianca turned to him, startled. "Babe, it's just a..." Waitress. Nathan's gaze never left Emma, his voice steady and low. "No, Bianca, it's not just a waitress." Everyone watched as he removed his jacket and draped it gently over Emma's shoulders. She looked up, confused. He said quietly, "You shouldn't have to stand here like this, not tonight, not ever." Bianca frowned. "What are you doing?" Nathan turned to her, his tone like ice. "Apologize." She blinked. "What to her?" He nodded. "To my wife." The entire ballroom froze. Every sound died at once. The music, the laughter, even the breath in the air seemed to stop. Bianca blinked as if she hadn't heard him right. Her lips parted in disbelief. "You're what?" Nathan's voice stayed calm, but each word carried the weight of truth. "My wife." Gasps rippled through the room. The waiters stopped in place. The investors whispered in shock. Emma stood motionless, her trembling hands clutching the jacket he'd placed over her shoulders. The world around her blurred. She whispered softly, "Nathan, what are you doing?" Turned to her, his expression soft now, protecting her with the same calm strength he'd always carried. "I should have told them sooner. I shouldn't have let anyone treat you like this. Ever again." Bianca stepped back, shaking her head, her voice sharp. "You're joking, right? This girl, you married her, she's a waitress." Nathan's eyes flashed. "No, she's the woman who stood beside me when I was nothing, when I was sleeping in my office and eating instant noodles so I could save the company. She worked night shifts to help pay my debts. She's the reason you're all standing in my ballroom tonight, and you tore her dress as if she was beneath you." The crowd turned their eyes from Bianca to Emma, some embarrassed, some speechless. Bianca's arrogance crumbled into panic. Nathan continued. "She didn't want anyone to know who she was. She said it would make the staff uncomfortable. She wanted to work tonight, because this event is for the workers. She helped raise the money for every donation, every speech, every detail that was her doing." Bianca stammered. "But Nathan, you can't seriously mean..." He cut her off quietly. "You should leave, Bianca. Your invitation ends now." Security stepped forward, gently guiding her out, the crowd still silent. Emma's eyes filled with tears as she whispered softly, "You didn't have to do that, Nathan." He looked at her with warmth. "I did the moment you walked into this room, and someone forgot your worth." The music didn't return for several minutes, but when it did, the tone had changed, softer. Humbler guests began to approach Emma, not with pity, but with admiration. The same people who ignored her minutes ago now smiled genuinely. Nathan stayed beside her, every step his hand in hers, as if reminding everyone exactly who she was and why she mattered. When the night finally ended, and the last guests drifted out under the glow of the chandeliers, the ballroom looked different, quieter, softer, the echo of shock still lingering in the air. Emma stood near the grand piano, clutching Nathan's jacket around her shoulders, her torn dress hidden beneath its warmth. He walked toward her slowly, his tie undone, his eyes tired but full of something that looked like peace. She shook her head, still trying to process what had happened. "I told you I didn't want people to know, Nathan. You promised I could just blend in." He nodded. "I know, but I couldn't watch you stand there like you were invisible. Not after everything you've done for me." She sighed. "You didn't need to humiliate her," he said quietly. "I didn't," she did that to herself. For a moment there was silence between them, the kind that carries every word unspoken. She finally looked up, her voice softer. "Why didn't you tell them sooner?" "About us," he smiled faintly. "Because I wanted to protect you from this world. They love wealth, not truth, and you are the only real thing I have left." She blinked, tears threatening to spill. "Why me, Nathan? Why not someone who fits your world better?" He stepped closer, his tone steady. "Because my world only started making sense when you walked into it." He reached out, fixing the torn edge of her dress, his fingers trembling slightly. "You were serving tables when I met you, and you still are, but the difference is now you're serving hope," he said. She laughed quietly through her tears. "That's such a CEO thing to say," he chuckled. "Maybe, but it's true. You grounded me when I was lost, and I'll never let anyone make you feel small again." Outside, the rain had started to fall. Nathan placed his jacket fully around her shoulders and took her hand. "Come on, let's go home." She frowned. "Home in front of everyone, you mean?" He smiled. "No, home. The place where no one needs to know what you own to know. Who you are." They stepped out of the ballroom into the night, the world watching. But for once he didn't care. She looked up at him through the rain and whispered, "You really didn't have to defend me like that." He smiled. "I wasn't defending you. I was reminding them who you are, my wife, the woman who built my heart before my fortune." The next morning the story had already gone viral. Every headline carried the same words: "Cruel, CEO's girlfriend humiliates waitress. Until he reveals she's E." His wife's social media was overflowing with clips from the gala. The moment Nathan took off his jacket and placed it over Emma's shoulders, the moment he said, "Apologize to my wife." People were calling it the most shocking twist of the year, but for Emma it wasn't about the noise. It was about what it finally silenced. She woke up to hundreds of messages from strangers calling her an inspiration, but she didn't feel like one. She sat by the window sipping coffee, wearing one of Nathan's shirts, watching the sunrise. She never cared about attention. She just wanted to live quietly. Nathan walked in holding the newspaper, his voice soft. "You've made me the most talked about man in the country." She smiled faintly. "You did that to yourself." He sat beside her, wrapping an arm around her shoulders, and said, "I'm sorry you had to go through that." She looked up at him with tired eyes. "You don't have to be sorry for loving me in public." He smiled, then said quietly, I'm just sorry I waited this long." Later that day, Nathan called an emergency meeting at his company. Every executive filled the boardroom expecting another deal announcement, but instead he spoke about respect, about humility, about how every worker in that building, from the receptionist to the cleaner, mattered as much as the ones sitting at that table. His voice calm but firm. If a company forgets kindness, it doesn't matter how much it earns. We didn't build this from arrogance. We built it from gratitude, and I learned that from my wife. After the meeting, he walked into the cafeteria, where employees whispered and smiled shyly. He found Emma standing near the counter, helping the staff serve lunch. He laughed, shaking his head. "You really can't stop working, can you?" She smiled. "That's how I remind myself where we came from." He wrapped his arm around her waist quietly. "Then let's never forget." Months later, the same ballroom where humiliation once filled the air hosted a new event. But this time it wasn't about luxury. It was a charity gala dedicated to women who worked in service jobs, who often went unseen. Emma walked on stage wearing the same black dress, carefully repaired. Nathan stood in the audience, his hands clasped with pride. She said softly, "Sometimes life tears you down to show you where you truly belong, but if you meet the right person, they won't just stand beside you, they'll stand up for you." The room erupted in applause. Nathan's eyes never left her, and when she looked back, she saw the man who had once ruled through power now ruled through love, the same man who had turned his pride into her protection. As the lights dimmed and they danced quietly under the chandelier, he whispered, "You turned my world." Upside down, Emma smiled, pressing her head to his chest. "Maybe it was upside down all along, I just helped you see it. Right side up. If this story made you smile, share it with someone who needs a reminder that accidents can turn into beautiful beginnings."